Welcome to our nightly news. These are the headlines. President of the Republic has left the Ethiopian capital, returning home after participating in the 38th African Union Summit of Heads of State and Government and presiding over the African Peer Review Mechanism Forum of Heads of State and Government. We will highlight the President's activities in Ethiopia, a visit marked by his commitment to Africa's development and stability. The summit's key decisions underscored Algeria's central role in shaping the continent's future. Algeria secures the position of Vice President of the African Union Commission, defeating Morocco's candidate. Army General Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the PNA, receives at the headquarters of the PNA the head of the Equipment Development Department of the Central Military Commission of the People's Republic of China. Welcome back, everyone. President Abdelmajid Tebboune has returned to the country from Addis Ababa after participating in the 38th African Union Summit of Heads of State and Government and presiding over the African Peer Review Mechanism. He was welcomed at Houari Boumediene International Airport by the Prime Minister Nadil Arabawi and the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the PNA, Army General Saad Shingriha, and the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency of the Republic, Boualam. Following the national anthem, the President reviewed the formation of the Republican Guard, which presented him with an honorary salute. The President of the Republic participated today at the 38th Ordinary Summit, African Union Heads of State and Government, attended by African leaders and representatives of international, regional and continental organizations, notably the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Discussions focused on key challenges facing the continent. These included institutional reforms within the African Union, peace and security and economic integration through the African Continental Free Trade Area. The summit also addressed the issue of historical reparations to Africa, a step towards rectifying past injustices and promoting calm among African nations and individuals of African origin. President Abdelmajid Tebboune had arrived at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa to take part in the 38th Ordinary Session of the African Union Heads of State and Government Summit. President of the Republic has left the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, returning home after participating in the 38th African Union Summit of Heads of State and Government and presiding over the African Peer Review Mechanism Forum of Heads of State and Government. The President also took part in the establishment of the African Rating Agency as the chairman of the African Peer Review Mechanism during its 34th summit. The President met with several African leaders participating in the summit. He was received by Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The meeting focused on strengthening cooperation, fostering historical ties and elevating bilateral relations serving the shared interest of Algeria, Ethiopia and Africa. The head of state Abdelmajid Tebboun's activities in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia were marked by his commitment for the development and stability of the African continent. He reaffirmed Algeria's dedication to strengthening the African peer review mechanism with a financial contribution underscoring its commitment to good governance, transparency and sustainable progress across the continent. Manan Mafa with the roundup.
Reiterating Algeria's commitment to activate and strengthen the role of African peer review mechanism in addressing various challenges, particularly the promotion of the rule of law, the fight against corruption and the advancement of social justice and human rights, President Abdelmajid Tebboune emphasized that these challenges require African nations to work in a spirit of solidarity and responsibility to overcome the obstacles that hinder the APRM's ability to achieve its noble objectives.
أود هنا أن أؤكد مجددا التزام الجزائر كدولة مؤسسة لهذه الآلية بالحرص على تفعيل دورها في مواجهة التحديات الراهنة، لا سيما فيما يتعلق بترسيخ سيادة القانون ومكافحة الفساد وتعزيز العدالة الاجتماعية وحقوق الإنسان. وهي تحديات تفرض علينا العمل بروح من التضامن والمسؤولية لتجاوز الصعوبات المالية التي تحد من قدرة الآلية الإفريقية للتقييم من قبل النظراء على تحقيق الأهداف السامية التي أنشئت من أجلها.
Highlighting the critical financial situation facing the African peer review mechanism and reaffirming Algeria's commitment to supporting it in fulfilling its mission, President Abdelmajid Tebboune announced that Algeria has decided to contribute by $1 million to support the APRM.
انطلاقا من التزام الجزائر بدعم الآلية وتمكينها من أداء مهامها، قررت بلادي تقديم مساهمة طوعية بقيمة $1 مليون أمريكي لدعم عملية التقييم وتنفيذ التوصيات المنبثقة عنها.
The President of the Republic also spoke on the establishment of the African Financial Rating Agency, a major step forward for the continent. He emphasized that this African institution represents a path toward greater credibility and positivity in the financial sector. President Tebboune reaffirmed Algeria's commitment and support for this initiative to help achieve the objectives for which the agency was created.
نحن فخورين بإنشاء هذه الوكالة ونقدم تحياتنا الخالصة لكل من كان سببا في إنشاء هذه الآلية للتقييم l'agence de notation، لأننا واثقون بأن إفريقيا هي المستقبل، وكل العالم حتى العالم الغربي يعرف أن إفريقيا هي المستقبل. كانت ناقصة فيه آليات التقييم بين زملاء موجودة، آليات التقييم لاقتصاد كل دولة على حدة ممكن موجودة، آلية تقييم وتنقيط كل الدول الإفريقية معا كان ناقص. واليوم مع إنشاء مؤسسة للتنقيط أصبح البناء جاهز.
The presence of the head of state in this meeting is a proof of his commitment that the African peer review mechanism is an essential tool to concretize the 2063 agenda objectives, reaffirming Algeria's contribution on the consolidation of stability and development in the African continent.
Algeria has won the vice presidency of the African Union Commission, reflecting the country's diplomatic strength and regional influence. Algeria's ambassador to Addis Ababa and permanent representative to the African Union, Selma Malika Haddadi, was elected to the position with 33 votes, succeeding Rwanda's Monique Nsanzaba Ganwa, defeated by the the Moroccan candidate, who has been eliminated in the 6th round, while the Libyan candidates withdrew in the 1st round and the Egyptian candidate in the 3rd. At 47, Haddadi is regarded as a seasoned diplomat with over 2 decades of experience in peace and unity efforts across the continent. She previously served as Director General for African Affairs at Algeria's Foreign Ministry from March 2023 to April 2024 and as an ambassador to Kenya and South Sudan between 2019 and 2023. Once again, Algeria consolidates its commitment towards Africa. The head of state's role within the African peer review mechanism was commended, notably the $1 million contribution, an initiative which demonstrates the will to defend the African Union and promote cooperation between the nations. Manal Mafa with more.
African leaders of the African Peer Review Mechanism member states highly praised the President Abdelmadjid Tebboun's speech, putting forward Algeria's vital role in the joint African leadership. It was an inspiring speech during which the president of this mechanism's founding country stressed the principles leading to its creation. We were impressed by President Abdelmadjid Tebboun's statement in which he praised the work of the African Peer Review Mechanism established by heads of state to ensure self-monitoring and mutual oversight. Algeria's financial contribution will allow the consolidation of the mechanism's role in coordination of efforts between African countries, putting forward the continent's cooperation and integration. We appreciate his leadership as head of this forum. It was an honor for us all. We want to thank Algeria for its financial contribution, setting an excellent example by doing so, hoping that others would follow this initiative. He successfully led this forum and reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to continue its support for this mechanism. Via its unwavering commitment and active role within the African Peer Review Mechanism, Algeria continues to strengthen its position as a key supporter of good governance and democracy in Africa. This dedication reflects its firm resolve to promote African integration through constructive cooperation.
The Army General Minister delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the PNA, receives in audience today at the headquarters of the PNA the head of the Equipment Development Department of the Central Military Commission of the People's Republic of China, the Army General Chu Chui-chiang. The discussion focused on military cooperation, strategic exchanges and the strengthening of ties between Algiers and Beijing. Najah.
The welcoming ceremony began with a salute to the national flag, followed by military honors paid to the Army General Chu Chui-chiang by formations of the various National People's Army forces. During this audience, attended by the Secretary General of the Ministry of the National Defense, force commanders, the Commander of the National Gendarmerie, the Acting Commander of the Republican Guard, Major Generals and Generals from the Ministry of the National Defense, and the People's National Army General Staff, alongside members of the Chinese delegation. The two parties discussed the state of cooperation between the two countries and exchanged analysis and points of view on issues of common interest. At the start of his speech, he welcomed the head of the Equipment Development Department of the Central Military Commission of the People's Republic of China and the delegation accompanying him to the headquarters of the General Staff of the People's National Army on the occasion of his visit to Algeria, which represents a new opportunity to deepen the distinguished cooperation between the two armies. The Army General also recalled the historic nature of the relations between the two countries, since China was the first non-Arab country to recognize the provisional government of the Algerian Republic. He added that on the basis of these milestones, the Algerian-Chinese relations are now making significant progress and expanding in various fields, particularly the military. following the implementation of various mechanisms created to deepen cooperation in line with the determination of the high authorities of the two countries to raise these relations to the level of excellence. The Army General reiterated his belief that following this visit, the bilateral military cooperation will reach a remarkable new stage on the road to consolidating the military relations to the desired level in the service of the common interests and in accordance with the sincere will of the leaders of both countries. For his part, the Army General Chu Shui-jiang, he expressed his pleasure at visiting Algeria, praising the level of coordination and understanding with the Algerian side on the issues raised during this audience. And at the end of the meeting, the head of the Equipment Development Department of the Central Military Commission of the People's Republic of China signed the Golden Book of the People's National Army Staff.
Cooperation always. The Minister of the Interior, Local Authorities and Regional Planning, Ibrahim Murad, arrived in Tunisia to participate in the Council of Arab Interior Ministers meeting. He was received at Carthage International Airport by the Tunisian Minister of Interior, Khaled Al Nouri, and the Secretary General of the Council, Ali Qumar. France looted African artifacts through military violence are now displayed in museums as part of France's heritage, and France justifies this through self-serving laws, despite their true ownership being well documented. Najaftiya reports.
For decades, the colonial France committed horrific crimes against Africans, treating them with cruelty and injustice, yet paradoxically it was captivated by the African heritage, which it now proudly exhibits in its museums as its own property. Look at this beautiful object. It was taken with a knife in the hand by someone in 1932 who had been sent by France and tore it from its place of origin to bring it here.
Dans cette histoire, qui est le voleur?
In this story, the thief is who stole in a fraudulent way, but I am the legitimate heir, the biological, administrative, identity and cultural heir to this heritage. Among these exhibits are archaeological treasures of rare beauty, crafted by African peoples and looted by French soldiers during colonization. These ancient artifacts, currently displayed in Paris Museum, were taken from the African nations with unspeakable cruelty. Today, in any museum in the world, we can't find the title of the real owner, because in addition to stealing and looting, they also used forgeries, they used forged documents. In the case of these specific objects, their history is extremely well known. We know that they came from military looting. We also know that they came under bloody conditions. You can't enjoy these museums while completely ignoring the hidden face, which is the face of the appropriation, often violent. And after all, France justifies keeping these looted pieces by invoking a law designed to serve its own interests, claiming them as French property and treating them as spoils of war, ignoring the complete right of its documented origins.
As part of the efforts to implement the directives and decisions of the President of the Republic aimed at developing the dairy sector and regulating the subsidized milk market, the Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Fisheries, alongside the Governor of Algiers, oversaw the inauguration of the Riba Dairy specialized in milk production. Let's have a listen.
This is the biggest factory at the national level with a production capacity of 1,400,000 litres, including 1 million subsidized by the state. This will allow the citizen to choose between dried milk and freshly produced milk.
New developments in the occupied Palestinian territories. The prisoners' exchange deal continues between the Palestinian resistance and the Zionist occupier. Today, the resistance handed over 3 captives, while a bus carrying a group of Palestinian detainees arrived in the city of Ramallah in the West Bank. This marks the 6th release under the first phase of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. Earlier, the occupation had announced that it would in turn release 36 Palestinians serving life sentences and 333 others from Gaza. This comes as Zionist forces reinforce their presence in Tulkarem, continuing their ongoing assault since January 27th, amid the widespread raids across the West Bank and its refugee camps. Algeria's Yassine Hamza secured his sixth victory in the 2025 Tour of Algeria, dominated the Stage 7 sprint between Jilfa and Laghouat provinces. With this win, he retains the leader's yellow jersey, heading into tomorrow's final stage. Best of luck to him. That was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow indeed.